They are invited into these meetings to all sit there and talk about how they can keep selling the idea to the American public that vaccines are safe. That's why they hold so many vaccine meetings, because they don't want the immunization program to fall, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Dr. Offit was a good example. He sat on an advisory board for a vaccine that he held a patent. He received $350,000 for doing research on that vaccine, and he was paid to go around the country and talk to doctors and tell them it was safe to use this vaccine.
Of medical and pharmaceutical companies who have had cures for cancer and other diseases, okay, that now want to damage your DNA with untested vaccinations. Imagine how afraid they are of you. Can you just for a moment imagine how afraid of you they are? And now you've got to ask yourself the question, why are they afraid of you?
If you're so stupid to want to be deceived, go ahead. If you had any brains at all, you'd do your homework and take many, many days and hours, the kind of thing that Sir Lawrence Gardner does. Spend a lot of time researching.
Further ado, let's just dive right into this, and I'm going to read you the article. This is from the Tennessean, and the article is Group Warns EPA Ready to Increase Radioactive Release Guidelines. This is by Annie Payne. The EPA is preparing to dramatically increase permissible radioactive releases in drinking water, food, and soil after radiological incidents, according to Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility, or PEER. What is termed a guidance that EPA is considering, as opposed to a regulation, does not require public airing before it's decided upon. Oh, gosh, how convenient. EPA officials contacted today in the Atlanta and D.C. offices had no response on this issue as of 6 p.m. The radiation guides, called Protective Action Guides, or PAGs, are protocols for responding to radiological events ranging from nuclear power plant accidents to dirty bombs. Drinking water, for example, would have a huge increase in allowable public exposure to radioactivity, the group says. That would include, are you ready for this, guys? A nearly 1,000-fold increase in strontium-90, a 3,000 to 100,000-fold hike in iodine-131, and an almost 25,000 rise for nickel-63. The new radiation guidance would also allow long-term cleanup standards thousands of times more lax than anything EPA has ever before accepted, permitting doses to the public that EPA itself estimates would cause cancer in as much as every fourth person exposed, the group says. These relaxed standards are opposed by public health professionals inside EPA, according to documents PEER said it obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. PEER is a national alliance of local, state, and federal resource professionals.
The whole thing is like, with me, we already know. I see you, we already know we're going to kind of alter the story and kind of see what we can do to kind of tweak information.
Yeah.
So, and if there's ever anything when they're filling out the paperwork that you're questionable, for the most part, we kind of harass you at the front desk. You left this blank, you left this blank. You just be like, oh, well, I want to wait until I talk to the nurse. And that's fine.
Okay.
Because then you just say, I don't understand.
Yeah.
She's a nurse practitioner. She's a very good woman clinically.
Yeah.
Between the three of us, because we're already cool.
Yeah.
We hate her. But that's why you come and you ask for me only.
Okay.
Corinne is my right hand. She's the one that was at the desk I
Corinne.
spoke to with the dark hair. You know,
Okay.
you know, but if I'm not available, you just say, hey, listen, I know Amy, you know, just have her give me a call back. You know, she's,
Okay.
yeah,
Corinne seemed cool.
Yeah,
She seemed
she's
cool.
my partner in crime, and we try to
She
do
knows
the best
what's
that
up.
we can.
Partner in crime. Those were her words, not mine. Well, joining us now, is Steve Wagner. He's the president of Renewal Forum, and he is here to give us kind of the legal rundown on what's been happening. He served as the director of the Human Trafficking Program at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services from 2003 to 2006. His focus now on the Renewal Forum is studying the phenomena of human trafficking, particularly that of juveniles. Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks to you and Lila for shining a spotlight on what is really a crisis in America today. We have an epidemic of juvenile sexual exploitation going on. You heard the figure. We use a figure, 250,000 kids a year are drawn into situations of commercial sex exploitation, prostitution, from which they cannot escape, and these are the victims of human trafficking in America today. We passed an anti-trafficking law 10 years ago, and as a result, many people have heard of human trafficking. What they probably don't know is that the vast majority of victims aren't people from other countries. They're our own kids. And as you pointed out, any child under the age of 18 who engages in commercial sex is a victim of trafficking, period.
Now, you've seen some of the video that we played tonight. There's still more to come, so don't go away. We have more video coming. Is this illegal?
It looks to me like what they're doing is facilitating human trafficking. There are three things that were disturbing to me in the video, particularly. One, there's no effort to rescue the kids. Agencies that are healthcare providers have an obligation to report abuse. Well, you know, how can you not consider prostitution of a kid to be anything other than abuse? They have an obligation to report the abuse to state authorities. They have a moral obligation to try and help the kid escape by calling the police. Two, they are facilitating the act of trafficking. Who benefits from the victim getting an abortion? There's no possibility of informed consent. These kids are in situations of slavery. They can't say, yeah, I consent to getting an abortion. The person who benefits from the kid getting an abortion is the trafficker, for reasons you've heard. Puts them back out on the street making money. This is a tremendously lucrative criminal enterprise. And the third thing that's disturbing is the whole confusion about prostitution overall. Many of the people who think that there's an inherent right for a woman to suffer the trauma of abortion also think it's perfectly legitimate to earn a living through prostitution. They don't understand the reality of what this is. This is an unrelenting, dignity-crushing, personality-destroying series of rapes. That's what we are subjecting these kids to, and the fact that this is tolerable to anyone, particularly a healthcare provider, is just unconscionable.
Steve, can you comment on, and as we've done this trafficking project to investigate Planned Parenthood's willingness to aid and abet human trafficking, what we come against again and again is this, it's widespread, it's institutional, we come against this kind of attitude at Planned Parenthood across the board that sexual abuse or young minors having sex with people twice their age or having sex on the streets is not a big deal. Can you comment on that kind of pervasive attitude?
Yeah, it's the pretty woman syndrome. It's the idea that Julia Roberts is standing on a street and Richard Gere pulls up in a Maserati. This is a fantasy. You have to talk to a survivor of prostitution, and I've had the honor of working with several who are now in ministry trying to reach a hand back and rescue people from the streets. It is just, these kids are being subjected to a constant trauma, and when they come out, they are in deep trouble. They need a lot of help to restore their life, to rebuild their lives so that they can function in our society. There's nothing pretty about what they go through on a daily basis, and I fail to understand how anyone can tolerate this.
Same here. I can't understand it either. It's overwhelming.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us and for dedicating your life and your ministry to helping Americans and people understand what's going on here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your advocacy.
Abortion 3 times a week. We'll do about 30 a day. abortions 3 times a week. And we fill about 30 a day.
Here is Sheriff Twyla Braze. She is the president of the Citizens Council on Health Care. It's a grassroots organization raising national awareness about protecting baby DNA. And Minnesota State House Representative Tom Emmer, he is fighting on a state level in Minnesota. Twyla, let me just start with you. You were a nurse, and you stumbled into this how many years ago and said, this isn't right. Tell me the story.
Well, we found it in a bill in 2003, where the health department wanted to be able to test every child for any condition that they wished, and we said, well, there ought to be consent. And that was when we first found out that they had a repository of DNA that they've been keeping since 1997. So that was really our first clue that this was going on.
Okay, so what is the problem with this? Because as a nurse, you know, I don't have a problem. Look, they take my baby's DNA to make sure that the baby is okay and everything else, and no disease that's going to go, you know, ramp. You know, I don't have little half Godzilla, half human baby or whatever they're looking for. What is the problem with them doing this?
Well, I think what you need to realize is there's a lot of parents who would be okay with the testing, but they are not okay with the idea that the government is going to keep their baby's DNA and use it for research afterwards. The other thing to understand is that the health departments are essentially creating genetic registries of the genetic results of all these children, and that's 4 million children every year all across the nation.
Okay.
So this is happening everywhere, not just in Minnesota.
Tom, help me out with this. You are a state representative in Minnesota. You are trying to help lead the charge here on this to stop this. What is the problem with a state registry? What's the problem with having everybody and their DNA on record?
Well, we don't know the ultimate end of that question, Glenn, but first off, you hit it. There's this little thing called the Constitution, which does provide that if we're willing to protect it, we are entitled to our property. The state is not. And for the state to first just take DNA without asking, and I'm sure you'll get into this wonderful opt-in, opt-out. It really is all about consent. State wants to ignore the individual's rights, take the DNA under the auspices of public health, public safety, and then they go and stick it in a warehouse that can be used for all kinds of different things. And as many people know, with the state of our medical technology, cloning and the like, the DNA, the use for DNA is unlimited, and we don't even know how to use it in the future.
Everybody makes me sound like I'm crazy. I don't think the state is going to be cloning children. I mean, I just don't think that's going to be happening.
No, I would agree, Glenn, and my point is this: we don't know what the ultimate uses would be, but just in the immediate future. Yes.
May I suggest I do have something that is a little less crazy. Here we have the state becoming an insurance company. They're going to be taking over all of the health care. They're also doing genetic testing. We will be able to know soon, are you going to have a heart attack? Are you prone to heart disease? Do you have diabetes? Do you have this? Do you have that? They're going to present this as, oh, well, I mean, look, we're going to know how many people are going to have heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. But we're entering Gattaca kind of times here, where they can look at your child and say, oh, well, your child, they're going to have too many problems, they're going to have too many things going on, etc., etc. That child is tagged for life. If Blue Cross or Blue Shield was given the tag, the DNA testing of your child, the people would get out, they would be standing and rioting in the streets saying, there's no way you can have an insurance company do that, because they will just write the insurance and take care of the insurance any way they want to match the DNA, and you're in, you're out. Does that sound crazy?